Yeah, I don't want to be done in 15
Sorry,
minutes.
sitting in traffic on 30A, speaking of destination improvements. Hey, John.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, what a concept, huh?
Huh?
What a concept.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Call the meeting to order. We got a quorum call. Looks like we're good. Yep. Do we have any public comments on any agenda items?
Before we get to that, I'd like to make a few announcements.
Sure.
So we got 2 new members today. As you know, the BCC voted for us to add 2 new members. Previously, we had reduced the number of members so we had a better ability to gain a quorum. We learned we could keep the same quorum number, but we could increase the members. So we've added John Over and John Toombs. John is a local business owner, live well 30A. You do more than that too, right?
A little bit.
And then John Toombs is John has a property management company as well. Is that correct? Okay. So welcome those 2 new members. Get a chance afterwards, introduce yourself, and get to know each other. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
So any other public any public comment? All right. Next is the approval of the minutes.
I'll move to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved unanimously. So next is new business. We have customary use and leave no trace. Kate Johnson.
Yep. Kate's not here today. I'm assuming that what she was referring to is what's going on with the customary use and leave no trace. So I'm sure, as all of you are aware, 631 preempted any customary use codes. That was part of it. The main part of it is a strengthening reaffirmation of private property rights and offering additional remedies for private property owners to have their private property rights preserved. And so that came into effect July 1st. It caused us to have to change how we do some of our business with beach code enforcement. And then there's been some other issues that have come up since then that have changed how we are made because of changes how we pick up garbage on the beach. So leave no trace. Prior to the 2016 season, we used beach code enforcement to enforce the leave no trace code. And that is anything left on the beach unattended 1 hour after sunrise or sunset to 1 hour after sunrise is considered abandoned and would be subject to leave no trace code. We would tag it and we would come back in 24 hours to remove it. If we did encounter that person 24 hours later or that equipment, if they were there, we would give them some enforcement action. If they were not there, we would simply take the equipment and hold it for 90 days. Getting back to that section of the beach with the resources we had was problematic, and it wasn't as successful or as efficient as it could be. So I petitioned the BCC to allow us to do it with beach maintenance people, which they did, and then we started running the crew down the beach every night, and if it's on the beach, we pick it up, regardless of if it's private property or public property. As you know, county municipal codes typically are really predominantly govern private property. So that's why we were legal department until we were allowed to do that. With this new change, legal advised us that we need to go back to the beach code enforcement mechanism of leave no trace. So we still do the leave no trace with our maintenance crews on public property, but on private property, the beach code enforcement issues a notice of violation. We have a little bit better system of tracking our cases than we did back in 2015. So now when the officer comes on in the morning, look down through the cases, determine if there's a leave no trace in that area, make contact with people that may be using equipment then, let them know what the rules and codes are, and hopefully motivate them to remove that equipment before you have the opportunity to enter into the court proceedings. So that's what they're doing. The department, of course, is spearheading that under direction of BCC. And there's been a lot of discussion about it, by seeing on social media. I encourage everybody to make themselves aware by reading House Bill 631, getting their news from reliable news sources and not necessarily off social media. And also understanding, the property relationships on the beach. What is private property? Who owns the main high water line? How do you determine the main high water line? Where is the erosion control line? What is the erosion control line? And that way, as a committee member, when you're asked wherever you may be, you have an informed response instead of a response that may not be accurate. Because there's a lot of inaccurate information going around. But the reality is that people own the main high water line. They have title to it. Some of it was bought legitimately. Some of it was done through quiet title. And then with that title comes certain rights. And they're exercising those rights. House Bill 631, like I said, was really a strengthening of those rights and a small portion of preemption of customary use case.
I have a question. How will the pending change in your trash collection methods impact Leave No Trace?
Well, like I said, the leave no trace has already been impacted, from us not picking up with maintenance crews to us having to use the notice of violation technique, all right, on private property. So moving forward from here, it won't make any difference in that. The pending trash collection that she's referring to is we've been notified by approximately 18 landowners through a handful of attorneys that they would like for us to cease and desist collecting the garbage from their properties, as well as to discontinue traversing their properties. So our garbage collection station is completely voluntary. If you would like your garbage picked, we'll pick it up. If you don't, we won't pick it up. That's not a problem for those individual properties.
I'm sorry, Brian, if they've asked you to cease and desist, how is there a way to monitor them that it's still ensured that they're responsible for their trash and it gets picked up? Are there any penalties for that?
I'll get to that in just a minute.
All right, thank you.
So, not a problem discontinuing. What becomes a problem is because of our limited access point onto the beach, and because of the lake outfalls that are, sometimes broken open, it then impacts people to the east or west of them that we can no longer get to. And so, in discussion with the county attorney, I suggested that we acknowledge receipt of their cease and demand, explain the impacts to them, ask for reconsideration, and also ask for, if there cannot be a reconsideration, ask for some time to notify the affected property owners that have not asked us to quit picking up their garbage, and allow them time to come up with some solution, because you can't just cut off the garbage pickup and expect that function to happen on the beach. Last year we collected about 72,000 bags of garbage off the beach, and we determined, the letters we had received as of July 10th, that about 30% of the garbage that we collect annually will not be able to be picked up. So that's, 24,000 bags of garbage. So, the July 10th meeting, BCC meeting, the BCC gave us direction to do that. We'd actually done that prior to the meeting, and some of the people that had notified us understood that discontinuing their garbage and traversing their beach was going to be an impact on other people, and they voluntarily said, okay, well, we'll send you a letter that says we're not asking for you to cease and desist. Unfortunately, since July 10th, we've received a couple more letters asking for that, and we anticipate receiving even more letters. We're hoping that, BCC gave us direction to ask for reconsideration consideration. We're hoping that, that will be somewhat successful. You know, reality is we'll probably still have people who don't want it, and it's gonna impact the garbage. And so, you know, if we can be given a little bit of time to make that logistical change, a couple things happen is, one, that happens, and so there is still somebody getting garbage off the beach. Second thing is we'll kind of be out of the summer season, so to speak. We still have our fall season, which is busy, but, you know, then those private property owners will just have to come up with some kind of mechanism to get their garbage off the beach. The end result will be there'll be more garbage on the beach. And so to answer your question, is we do have a littering, you know, code, and our beach code enforcement people would be charged, because that's part of Chapter 22, which we're charged with enforcing. And so there could be a possibility of being non-compliant with the littering code.
Okay, so
Yeah.
is that, I'm trying to figure out, is there a way to propose to the TDC or the BBC that is enforced, doubly enforced, more, because that environment, tourism, all that stuff.
Turtles.
Yeah, all
Turtles.
that, absolutely. Well,
All wildlife, yeah.
Places that will be affected that did not request this change. A lot of resort communities, a lot of small condominiums, there are some single-family dwellings. The people that have the most garbage, I think, have also the best opportunity to get the garbage off the beach, and probably have more of the impetus to get it off the beach. You know, I mean, the resort community, they want it to be clean.
right.
The single-family dwellings don't have that much garbage, because, you know, it's a house full of renters, you know what I mean? But if garbage continues to pile up at the foot of the boardwalk, it certainly would get some enforcement action. Now, one thing that's going to impact that is that, you know, beach code enforcement operates under Florida Statute 162, that one of the main tenets of that is we're allowed to enter property to address non-compliant activity under the deal that we can observe it from a public way, thoroughfare or way, or public place where the general public would reasonably be able to see that. And that kind of goes back to the protections of the Fourth Amendment. And so if we can't cross private property, you know, our other option is along the main high water line. That's almost impossible, you know, from April, you know, to October, during the you know, the most of the day. Early in the morning, late in the evening, we can certainly, you know, get down the beaches. So there'll be a certain impact to beach code enforcement. You know, we'll change our practices. We'll probably be using, you'll see us more on ATVs, probably on foot. One thing that complicates that is we have to have connectivity to our system we use to track our cases. Because one of the other tenets of beach code enforcement is we have to give a person an opportunity to cure. If you give them a notice of violation, you have to give them an opportunity to cure. And so we have, with that particular scenario, we have to be able to know if we've seen them before. And the only way we can do that is through our database. You know, we have so many officers now, and they work different shifts. So, you know, all of this compromises our function on the beach to some extent. As we do in every case, when we are confronted with the obstacle, we try to figure out how to get around it and still do the mission we're asked to do.
So, Brian, back to what you mentioned earlier about quiet title. I know this is not your wheelhouse, but I'm wondering if you've heard, just in all the discussions that have happened, I'm sure there's a lot, when owners got quiet title and changed their property line, and got their property line changed, do you know if the tax assessor's office reassessed the value of their property based on that additional property that was not there when they purchased the property?
Right, so the property appraiser has a department that goes out and evaluates property every 2 years. And at that time, you know, I would assume that properties would be adjusted based on newly gained area. But that would be a question for the property appraiser.
Yeah, I know that's not your.
And the tax assessor, as they work with, you know, county tax collectors.
Thank you. Anything else on that topic, that fun topic? Anything from the audience, public? Okay, so next we have trail signs. Mary Lou?
I just want to say kudos for this awesome sign that's been put up about Grayton Beach, about the history of Grayton Beach. I'd love to see more of these about every community that we have on the beach. And also the benches and the trash cans and the cigarette receptacles in the shade. I just love it. It's just good news. Just kudos to Josh.
Rebuilding bike path, you'll see those
Yep.
components put in there.
It's excellent.
Our next section will be headed east of 395, and it'll be done in conjunction with some stormwater construction by Public Works that they're doing to, for stormwater for the road. It's actually going to go underneath the bike path, so we'll just do it all at one time.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, probably about a year and a half before it gets done.
That's okay.
So the first section will be from 395 to Campbell Street,
Mm-hmm.
and the second section will be from Campbell Street, hopefully all the way down to Eastern Lake, but it might not be all the way to Eastern Lake.
Okay. Great sign.
Thank you. Also, Mary Lou, Coastal Dune Lakes and Visitor Guide and Reclaim Deeded Accesses to the Coastal Dune Lakes.
Beautiful book. I would like to see more detail about the coastal dune lakes. I'd like to see a map. I'd love to see them named, the history on each of them. I think the ecotourism in our county is going to blow up. I would just like to see more stuff about the coastal dune lakes and less about architecture. That's just my,
Today, we have our marketing director, he's called Marketing Mike.
sweet.
Marketing Mike. That's
Hey,
great.
Marketing Mike. The names are mentioned twice. There's a Oyster Lake and a Camp Creek.
He's our marketing director, and he's the person behind all the,
I'm sure you'll hear from Debbie Hurd as well, because both of us would like to have featured the coastal dune lakes in this beautiful book.
as you know, we recently published that new guide,
Yes.
so the next opportunity will be, probably next year.
Yes, please. I know this is a brand new book, and it's beautiful. Hi, Mike.
Hi, thanks. I didn't know I'd be in a speaking role today, but Mike Harrigan, I'm the Director of Marketing for the TDC. Thanks for your compliments on the guide. It's, that guide serves as kind of the main publication we use to send out of market to influence people to travel here.
Yes.
So that's kind of our main purpose for that, is influencing travel decisions. We are in the process of creating a suite of in-market publications for visitors while they're here in town. We have one in the market now called Savor, which is a dining and food guide.
Yes, I've seen it.
We have one coming out called Explore, which is an ecotourism and kind of adventure activity guide that'll have much more detail on the coastal dune lakes.
Excellent.
So that guide there is kind of the big picture, and then these sub-guides that we have will be able to go into more detail on each of those things.
Okay. Because the CBA used to have a rec card at the TDC. It's not there anymore. So I guess I can contact the CBA about getting the rec cards back there. I just
Gotcha.
thought-
Or we'll chat with our visitor center folks and see if they've been in touch. Usually they restock those or notify the vendor, whoever it is. But
Right.
we'll make sure we get with CBA, and if they have some more, we'll get them distributed.
Perfect. I'll make sure that you have some more.
Oh, great. Thanks.
And then about the deeded accesses to the coastal dune lakes, there are many platted sentences. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just real quick, I'm just wanting to interject. So for the visitor guide, one thing that we're doing with this piece as we move forward is you might see an article in there about architecture. You referenced that article.
Yes.
So we're really trying to look at editorial features in this publication. And so next year we'll have a whole new fresh, feature on different, so perhaps it would be something like the coastal dune lakes.
Right.
And that way it keeps visitors interested. So perhaps if you order the guide and then you get it at a subsequent time, it's something new and fresh in there. It's not always the same things.
Exactly. Because I know that they have this perfect, and we have the one about the area maps and the hiking and biking and beaching. I
Right.
mean, I give all these out to everybody that I see, but
Yeah.
people are asking me specifically about the coastal dune lakes,
And
and
that-
we don't have anything.
And that's coming soon.
Okay,
It's on the
great.
radar.
Excellent.
Okay.
Next. I do know that there are several old deeds around the coastal dune lakes that at the time that they were done, they have accesses to the coastal dune lakes. Well, the people on either side of that know that it's a secret, and they have basically taken over them. So I challenge the county to reclaim those and bring them back, because I think it's very important for us to access these coastal dune lakes. And they do have a nice brochure at the TDC about how to access them, but There are hidden accesses that we no longer have because the public has taken claim of them, and I think we need to claim them back.
Okay, I'd like to meet with you sometime in
Okay.
the near future.
I met with Cindy Meadows years ago about it. It never went anywhere.
On our radar.
Okay.
In the past, there hasn't been traction on opening this back up.
Okay.
But,
I think it's important.
like I say,
I do too.
I think I know where most of them are, but
Yep.
we can sit down with you, with your knowledge, and make sure we have them all identified, and I can move forward, you know, through having a conversation with people that
No,
make
they're
decisions.
just on the plats. Thank you.
Sorry, Brian. Interrupted.
That's my 2 cents.
Any comments or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess once we look into that farther and all that, there would be a way to provide the public maps or.
Absolutely, or to add them to the public access points.
A lot of them
Yeah,
have some improvements to them, because they're truly true forest.
Mhm.
You know, there's not even a foot trail through them, and some of them have been encroached on.
Yes,
Some of them are in dispute, you can imagine that.
yes.
Uh,
It's a battle.
But there are
10 years I've been working on this.
the developers that built around them, built public accesses to them, they just were never used. And so, but I think it's a good idea, especially with, you know, the beach,
Mm-hmm.
having some restrictions and limited use on it for a while.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Brian.
Very important. Okay, so that's it for old business, or new business. Old business, we have County Road 38 landscaping and beautification. Alan French from Trees on the Coast.
Should we stand up?
Yes.
While we're getting this set up, just for the new members, I'm Alan French. I'm the executive director of nonprofit Trees on the Coast. We're an environmental nonprofit, and basically our goals are to raise money, take the money, buy trees, plant them in public areas, mainly along roadways, to beautify the county. So that's, in a nutshell, what we do. And first off, I need to thank Lee Moore. Lee and I did a tour of the entire length of 30A, and this is Lee's writing with all the markings of where
Chicken
we have
scratch.
potential projects.
Yep.
And there's so many places we could do stuff, but what we have come up with to start with is 2 projects. One, if you, well, here's our vision. If you look at these pictures,
They are.
if you turn to about the middle of the packet, but our vision is, most of 30A looks like the picture on the right, which is sand and sand spurs and sun and ugly. And then the picture on the left is taken at Rosemary Beach, but our vision is to turn 30A to make it, not just the people in Rosemary get to enjoy that, but everybody in Walton County can enjoy it on their bicycles and whatever. The first, let's go to the, okay, this, I won't go through all of this. This is just some priority projects and what we, long-term. But obviously, there's huge benefits to doing this. Decreased erosion, improved drainage, stimulate business activity, increase property values for the, I heard someone's in real estate here, or maybe
Kelly
more,
and I are.
a couple of you. But it really does increase property values when you have beautiful wooded, tree-lined streets. Traffic calming, it slows people down. One thing that's not on here is when you have ugly power lines, instead of spending $1 million a mile to bury the power lines, if you can get the trees, when you're riding down the road, they disappear, because all you're seeing is trees, which is another
We
benefit.
still want to bury the power lines, though.
Yeah.
Make no mistake.
Until we get $26 million, I guess we'll plant trees in the meantime. The other thing for the new people, these projects we're proposing don't cost the county a penny. It's all donations from us. What Trees on the Coast is asking of y'all is your support. You know, when we go to TDC, and then Board of County Commissioners. In fact, when I ran out here because my phone rang, I've been playing phone tag with Commissioner Chapman's office, and that was setting up a meeting with him next Wednesday, I believe. And I've met with 3 of the other commissioners who all totally support what we're doing.
Excellent.
I haven't had any negative feedback at all.
I'm glad to hear that you overcome all the theft of the live oaks in the state of Florida, so.
Pardon me?
Sorry, never mind, shouldn't have said that. There was a claim earlier in the year where we were not able to acquire any live oaks from the nurseries. They were all stolen.
Oh,
That
Yeah.
was very mature of me, for the record.
We haven't stolen the live oaks, I promise. So we can plant them.
yeah.
Let's see if there's anything on this page. This is just, you know, if you believe in trees, there's 1,000 reasons to why they're a good thing, why they really help the community. So I won't go over why trees. I'll go to this Western Lake project, which, is that showing up? Kind of half and half. Anyway, it's on your sheet there. This project begins where the bike path turns at a 90-degree angle just west of Western Lake and continues all the way to Watercolor, where Watercolor starts their landscaping. On the north side, this is a nice wide swale, I call it, between the roadway and the bike path. It's a minimum of 12 feet. So we have plenty of room to plant off the roadway for what the engineers like, and room to also not be directly on the bike path. But what these will do is it'll hide the power lines, it'll shade 30A, it'll shade the bike path, which is an intensely hot, and
Yes, it is.
it's doesn't encourage people to ride bikes. So that's why I put in here that if we provide shade, it encourages people to use biking instead of getting in their cars, which helps with traffic. And I've gone over some of these other. This is our first or second project. You can see it's really hard to see this, but that's just a Google Earth picture with the trees starting on the western side of the lake, and then there's a kind of a peninsula in the middle of the lake where they'll be, and then this is all by that new bridge and bike path on the north side of Western Lake. The next project is Grayton Beach, and this is going west from 283 on the south side by the new bike path. And again, the swale is even wider there. It's a minimum of 12 feet up to 16 or 17 feet wide. So there's plenty of room for this. One thing we're gonna get some negative why we can't do this. I promise it's gonna come, and it's gonna come, and I know the engineers have a job to do, but they're gonna say there's power stuff and sewer lines and yada, yada, yada. And so in preparation for that, I want to say, number one, if the county and the county commissioners really want to do this beautification, it can be done, because anything can be done, no matter what someone says negatively about it. One thing about I got an email today, and it was talking about root systems in the ground. So I want y'all to know about this, so that they don't want roots wrapping around water mains and stuff. And I understand that. I went online, and this is a article about live oaks from the University of Georgia Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources. The sand live oak is literally the perfect tree for what we're trying to do here on these roadways. And the reason is they're very salt tolerant. They love sandy soils, which is exactly what we have. They're used extensively in roadside plantings for this root. For the reason I'm going to tell you right now, they have a very shallow root system. which means, and I'll quote right here, roots. Live oak root systems are wide-spreading and shallow, requiring good drainage, which is the sandy soil, plenty of oxygen, so they stay near the surface. The second quote is live oaks generate roots running just below the soil surface, coming from the stem base. So we're not, it's the safest tree when it comes to any utilities or whatever, as far as their root system goes, because it's very shallow. That's why when you see a live oak uprooted, all you see is a
Right.
flat ball on the side, you know, when it's on its side. So anyway, the other one thing I want to bring up, and I had emailed you, Lee, about this the other day. We've done other projects where we have done a program called Plant a Tree to Honor a Loved One, and it's unbelievable how people will donate a tree to a loved one versus donate money to trees on the coast. And
Sure.
if we can get this Plant a Tree to Honor a Loved One project approved, I predict we will get 100-fold times number of trees as if we don't get this approved. And all that part of the program is they get a small plaque, about a 4 by 6 inch plaque. It's down at ground level, and it is put on the bike path side of the tree. And we also are planning to do saw palmettos around the trees. So from the road, these signs will be virtually disappear. You won't even see them. But when someone wants to take their mom out to 30A and see dedicated to Papa, he was a great father, a sign like that, they will be able to walk down the path or ride their bike down the path and stop and see that tree that they donated. And we did this over on Holiday Island, Destin, and probably got 100 people. And that's just a little neighborhood to donate trees. So over 100 individually donated trees. Some people were donating 4 and 5 trees because they wanted one for each kid and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know what the sign ordinances are in this county. I do see the commissioners have their signs all in the roadways right now.
They're allowed
So
to.
I'm assuming this won't be a big deal, but do y'all have any insight into that? Allowing us to put tiny little plaques. I won't even call them signs.
I don't think those are considered signs.
I wouldn't think.
Guidelines on signage, I'd have to go and verify that. I'm assuming that a 4 by 6 memorial type sign would probably be not considered a roadside sign,
Okay.
but we have to verify.
Yeah.
That'd be great
I
to
know
know that, because when I go,
Or roadside signs or explicit advertisements,
no,
and
Yeah.
those aren't.
no, this
No,
is,
I'm saying that roadside signs.
Oh, okay.
That we all passed, 7, 8 years ago, 10 years
Sure
ago.
that
Yep.
after
They were for the
regulations and
purposes of
Mhm.
advertising.
intent and all that something like that would probably not be in violation of the city code guidelines.
great. I've talked to plenty of locals and mentioned this program, what we're trying to do, and every one of them says, I want to donate a tree. So we'll be able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars if we can get this Plant a Tree to Honor a Loved One program approved. So if you talk to any of the commissioners, I've just briefly brought it up to them, the ones I've met so far. Just please help support us on that. But that's it. We're going to plant the two initial projects are 87 sand live oaks, 50 feet apart, which they'll end up together. Eventually, it'll be a solid shade garden. And I'm excited. I've got this fear because I've run up against government so many times that always have a reason why you can't do something. And there will be reasons why we shouldn't or can't do it. So that's why I'm hoping y'all will just tell people, the higher ups, that if we want to do it, we can do it. That's all I'm saying. I'm totally positive, and it's like when I was building a house, I said, "What? Can we move that wall?" Well, no. I said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, yeah, you can do anything. It's just going to cost you money, but we'll get it done, and I promise, we're not asking for money, because we'll get it. We'll make it happen. So this is free to the taxpayers. TDC won't spend a penny. County government won't spend a penny. So do y'all have any questions about what we're trying to do?
Any idea how much the donate plant a tree in honor of a loved one? What were you charging on Holiday Isle? Just curious.
They were, they wanted palm trees out there, and there was this, I finally got the price down on the date palms that they had. They were around 1,500. The sable palms were around 500. But, you know, that includes, we gotta put irrigation,
Yes.
and we gotta, the signs aren't that inexpensive either, so. I would assume it's gonna be less than 500 though for these sand live oaks, probably in the $300 range
Okay.
is what I'm thinking. And I think that'll really turn people out, cause it's hard to write a check for 1,500, but it's not as hard to write one for
When the
300.
tree's not in your yard.
Yeah.
Alan, does that, whatever that so many hundreds of dollars per tree end up being, does that cover the palmettos planted at the base as well?
Our plan right now, or we had a board meeting the other night, we are going to get an estimate on everything, the trees, the saw palmettos, the pine straw, running the irrigation, doing the bubblers to each tree in the palmettos. And we are actually gonna approach St. Joe Foundation for some support, especially with irrigation. The other thing, I met with Cliff, who just happens to be here. He said that the Great Beach y'all just installed a well and pumps for the new trees in Great Beach, that we should be able to tie into that for the Great Beach project. And we're looking into tying into watercolor to see if we can do that before we know if we have to put in a new well and run, but just tie into it and run down. So those are some of the details of our plans. We've researched it pretty well.
You've done a lot of homework. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We got a couple more comments and questions. Anybody else before I start? So, Alan, do y'all have a, like designer, professional designer designing these? I know it's just a line of trees, but.
No,
when
we met, I think Jay and Chance Powell, when we met, and also with Mac, can't remember Mac's last name. Carpenter. We had a meeting, and I asked them specifically, can we do Google Earth, and if we're doing just a row of trees, will that suffice, instead of making us spend
Right.
$5,000 to a landscape architect to draw a line
Okay.
of trees.
Right.
And y'all said yes, right? Mac said
Excellent.
yes. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
For staff, what is the rest of the process from here for this project moving through the county's process, if it's going to? Will it go to the TDC Advisory Council next, or?
Well, so normally if a entity came to the county and said, I want to plant landscaping in the right of way, the county would say, no problem, we have a right of way maintenance agreement program, submit your plans, sign away right of way maintenance agreements. The document that basically says that you're going to maintain the plantings, and then you don't, the county will do what they need to do to make it efficient and maintain the right of way. So what it is a nice way of saying we're probably gonna pull all the plants out and put grass back out in there, and then so we can mow it. So what's going to happen from here is so Alan, of course, is not interested in maintaining these to a certain extent. I don't think you just want to plant them.
My hand gets so sore when I put my hand up.
So the biggest thing is irrigation and all that, recognizing that live oaks should be able to, after a year or so, be self-sustaining, not need irrigation. And there might be some other opportunities we do with, some other irrigation device that's not a in-ground connected system. What I'm getting at is obviously going to have to be some sort of, relationship between Alan's group and the group that's going to maintain them. And so right now, TDC and Public Works has responsibility for maintaining the right-of-ways TDC, we also need to give the TDC some weigh in because it's going to increase the cost of maintenance, because we actually have a contractor that does that now. I would assume that they would say, hey, y'all are adding 136 trees that I gotta keep a 10-foot above path. Now, obviously, I didn't consider that in my original, scope of work. As the contract comes up for renewal, we would expect people to take it, as it is. But, so we give TDC, the opportunity to weigh in on it, and then, of course, BCC would probably have to have some final say in, yeah, we agree with this, we understand the relationship between the provider and the maintainer, and, we understand the TDC is going to allocate more funds, or we're working to allocate more funds. Appreciate everybody moving forward.
Okay, so I'm asking these questions in an attempt to figure out if this committee agrees, which we haven't discussed yet, that this is a good project that we would want to support. What exactly can we do to best help move it, do our part in moving it along through the process?
I think, you come as any other destination improvement, committee item, just like we did with that design guide, that was kind of a big thing. The garbage cans that we recently purchased that are going out were one of the small items. So it's kind of in between there, it's a specific item for a kind of a specific place. I know that we want to do it on the rest of it, but right now we've identified 2 areas we want to do it. And so I would think that, the committee would, make a motion, as a resolution of support for this, and then, to move it forward to the TDC. And it would become an agenda item on TDC. They would, hash it out, Alan would come speak before them, and, they would then, offer their support behind it, in the form of I don't want to say a resolution, but that's really what it is, but really in the form of somebody making a motion, somebody seconding it, discussing it, voting on it, it moves forward. We would operate as an advisory committee. Our decisions are non-binding. They simply move forward with the, status of this committee's, attitude about it. We approve it or we disapprove.
All right.
I will say, Jim Harmon, who's I think in Public Works,
Correct.
has informed me that he can't approve trees in the right of way because of whatever that one little code thing is. So he said you have to get approval from the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
Does
So
anyway.
that's what I'm saying. County commissioners have to have a weigh in on that.
Okay.
I spoke with Jim briefly about that particular section of the code, recognize that there's already, waivers or variances to that section of code. Obviously, we have trees up and down.
Turned into 38 outside of Rosemary Beach. Didn't y'all just do 5 or 10 live oaks on the,
As part of the,
between 98 and Rosemary
Border
Beach?
Association
Yeah.
efforts.
Yes, we did. And we had to get approval from the
So there's
BCC.
precedent at least. That's a good
Like I
thing.
say, Jim was giving you the land development code answer.
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Doing his
So
job.
I said, what do I do now? I said, go to the county commissioner.
Go ask. That's right.
That's where we are.
We're back where we were, 3 months ago, or whatever it was, 4 months ago, so now we're moving forward. So I think at this point, Lee, it'd be appropriate for somebody to make a motion to, accept Alan's, offer, and then, with understanding that we would work together to form this relationship of maintenance. And that is yet to be determined, but we have a meeting scheduled afterwards to start talking about that relationship.
All right, we'll entertain a motion if there is one.
Okay, I'll make that motion then to
I will.
present it to the TDC. Can I do that with being on the TDC? Yeah, I guess I can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll make that motion to present it to the TDC.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. In discussion phase here, I will just say personally, clearly, I've helped Alan with this, and I support this wholeheartedly. I think that one of the things Alan and I talked a lot about, and we talked to the county, both the TDC and Public Works, is that it's going to be important for Alan and his group to coordinate with both Public Works and the TDC on any projects that are happening going forward. We've got 30A repaving projects down the line. We've got path replacement projects. We've got coastal dune lake bridges being replaced. And so you know, the last thing we want to do is plant some trees and then a year or two later, they've got to be ripped out. So just so you all know, and that may come up in later levels of approval on this, that there is a very, very much of a focus on doing that and coordinating so that we're not stepping all over each other here and doing
And that's
things
just-
inefficiently.
That's why we picked these two locations based on that
Yep.
meeting we had with the bike path is brand new and
Right.
there's no foreseeable future, anything that's gonna have to be done there, so.
Right, so the part from watercolor moving west, the first project we would do, because that bike path is finished.
Right.
And then the second part of that project, Western Lake to 283, that bike path is getting very close to doing.
But the one west of Great Beach is brand new, right? So that-
Yes.
That's a great new
that's
brand new.
Done,
Mhm.
okay. So-
Great, all right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very
Thank y'all
much, Alan.
very
That's a
much. I
great
really
project.
appreciate it.
Okay, project updates. Brian, you ready? Do y'all want to go ahead so you don't, they're on the agenda last, but happy to move up out of courtesy. You sure? Okay.
Okay, so the brief project update, just some information in your package here, I'll just go through it quickly. The road is running about the same as last year, leaving those trays up and down for the months that are in there. You'll see a drastic change now moving forward on those trays, for the changes. The capital improvement projects, bike path 283 is complete. The contractor has a few minor things to correct, but they didn't reach final completion, and so get out and enjoy it. Beach accesses, as you know, we've had all those under design permit. These are our existing regional and neighborhood beach accesses. We bid out 4 of them earlier this year. Prices came back in too high. We decided to not accept those bids, and we recognize that because of the time frame that we try to constrain them to, what bumped the price up. So we asked BCC if we could just wait till later this year to do these projects. So they'll come back out for bid here pretty soon. And it's Fort Panic, Kendall Beach, 395, and Hickory. So those will, maybe, hopefully the prices will get back in line. We'll go ahead and get those, what I call a facelift. And then we'll start doing that with lots of, when I say lots, you know, a grouping of beach accesses that are in different locations so they don't compromise one geographical area from being under construction. The new regional beach accesses that we recently purchased, so the land we purchased to make those. The the Boone Allen one is, we had our TRC review recently, had a few comments. We'll go back and correct our plans to, so they won't have the issue with those. Some of it was with some buffer zones on the side, should we do probably correct. After that, we'll issue the minor DO, and we will start the construction procurement phase and get that project, hopefully under construction, probably late September, early October. And in hopes of having it done by the first of the season, when I say first of the season, you know, May, next year. The, Miramar Beach property, we received approval of our conceptual design, and have given the engineer the go-ahead for design development. And our secret beach access, we had it on the agenda for our last meeting. There was 2 basic designs that came out from our workshop, and they were envisioning a circular parking area. The one conceptual design had the restroom up by the road, and one had it down at the top of the dune. During our public workshop, there seemed to be a few people that felt that the restroom ought to be closer to the beach. As you know, that our Miramar Beach, or Boone Allen one, we purposely put that bathhouse out by the road so it has connectivity to the multi-use path. And it also makes it easier to construct, because the utilities are at the road. get confirmation. My assumption is they'll say, yeah, submit your application, we'll review it. So we'll take that back to the county commission at the first meeting in August, and we should have an answer then as to what the bid. My guess is that that project will probably have its restroom up by the river. So, do you have any opinion on that? Feel free to write an email to your county commission.
Yes, sir. Will do.
All right, so that's all of that project. I guess we talked about the bike paths earlier. Is the bike paths moving forward will be done in conjunction with public works projects. That's what we're working on. Of course, we purchased some property to build a new visitor center. Jay is working on the RFQ for our design efforts. So we will put out an RFQ and then select an architectural firm to help us design a new building to go on the property on 331 just north of here.
How much land is with that building?
Pardon me?
How much land is with that building?
2 acres?
Yeah, one piece of property, it's 3 acres total, part is wet, so it's probably just over 2 acres.
Okay. I thought it was bigger than it looks.
So that's update on projects.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, now it's time for council comments. Anyone have any comments on the committee? Yes, ma'am.
I always do, I'm sorry. I'd like to resurrect the Kellogg Center. If we can bring that back on the agenda at our next meeting in September. I'd like to see us ask the BCC for some funding to make that happen. I think that'd be a great activity for rainy days for us to have a nature center right here in South Walton for people to go to and learn about our area inside. It was given to the county as a gift. I think we need to do something with that property.
Where is that?
It's off Nellie, off Chet Holly, but there's no restroom, so we can't put any signage.
John, this is a piece of land the county was given, and it has a bayside parcel, and as well as a parcel that's kind of off the bay. And so the bayside parcel has a park on it, and we actually had funding this year to do rebuild what was it was a boat house. The house is now gone, so it's kind of like a small cove. And we're gonna rebuild the seawall and make it a new kayak launch. And it's been, always been in the plans to build a small nature center building, similar to what's at, Paget Park. Kind of a small community room, bathrooms and a little kitchenette. We've had funding in our budget for a couple of years, but, it falls off in favor of other projects that are probably more, important at the time. Railroad Drive has been out there for a long time. There ought to be some mechanism to build a building there. So we can definitely bring it back, at that time. The budget for this year, for 2019, was, we had a budget meeting Tuesday, Jay, is that correct? And, I think at this point now, that budget's kind of set.
Right.
There's always opportunity for the BCC to move money from somewhere else, but, we can bring it back and do the same way, make a motion, move it forward TDC, whichever you want to say. And then, stipulate where you think the funding should come from, TDC or BCC.
I think the tourists would enjoy it as well.
We use Paget Park, my office uses Paget Park. We limited space over my building right now, we're getting more space filled, but, it was part of the conveyance of the land, so it ought to be done.
Yes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Oh, so sorry. I'm a mess today.
Rain.
Any other comments from the committee members?
One thing I'd like to add is that in September, we will be getting very close to the time to start thinking about code revisions that pertain to the beach. So everybody keep that in their mind. Your next agenda request will be, please present any viable code revisions or code comments or whatever, beach related codes. Now, obviously that's going to be heavily affected by what happens here in the
Right.
near future, but just keep that in mind. Be ready for that next meeting.
How's it going with the vendors?
Vendors actually have been pretty good, this year. Last year we saw better, effort by vendors to stay within the code. This year, if you look at the code, activity report, you'll see very few interaction with, vendors. The interaction we do have is, explainable mistakes and/or, people, manipulating their gear after they've left for the evening.
Right.
Or during the day, vendor zones, it's very easy for a person to say, I don't want to sit in the vendor zone. As soon as the vendor sets his equipment out and leaves, they pick a chair up and move it. Actually, the activity you would see on that would possibly no violation found. It would just be interaction, with the person that was, there, and probably a contact call to the vendor to say, hey, we got your chair out, the person's back in the zone, they understand that.
And to sing your praises, it's been so much better since you've been here.
It ain't me, or it's not me, it's the
No,
people
you've had a lot to do with it. Yeah.
And, and the vendor industry, they
Mhm.
recognize, self-regulation, does a lot. So, it's everybody.
Right.
Thank you.
I have one comment. It's a long stretch, but I've said it over a couple of times over the years, but as much as I love living in this county, we are horrific about recycling. And we've got to, I know it's expensive, but we've got to figure something out.
I
We
agree.
have a lot of tourism that even comes down and asks, where are the recycling bins? And you say it to them, they almost have a shocked look on their face. I mean, there's gotta be a better resolution to it than just, oh, it's expensive.
It's like recycling has always been. Recycling was good when there was commodity prices, good commodity prices for recyclable, material, and now there's not. I mean, it's a direct symptom of, we did so well at recycling, that we flooded the market with recyclable commodities and the price went down. But the way it's gonna have to happen is by people wanting to do it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And there's still collection efforts. It's just,
It's a pain in the
it
butt.
costs money. I mean, there was a company that was in business that went out, they claimed that the county was recycling, the county actually is collecting recyclables. It's just, once again, we're doing it, but it's costing money. But on the user side, it's gotta be the passion to recycle. Because there's nothing stopping Hilton, from setting recycling bins, so they're choosing. And
We actually have some recycling bins. We don't have a means of
Disposing it.
disposing it.
Yes.
Right,
So, I mean, we
It's
recycle
not
cardboard,
fun.
we recycle our wooden pallets.
right.
And we literally give it away instead of charging or, because
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, we recycle our grease.
Yeah, it might come to a case where you
But-
might have to pay for it to be done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, 'cause that's where the county
We
is
would
right
like to do
now.
that.
If we would love to recycle everything we can recycle, but, we're having to pay for it, and then that would be a tax increase, and then you get that, So, that, it's always been the deal with recycling, until it gets to a point where, truly is where people can make money at it. And that's, I'll use a guy that had recycled 38. He was in it to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making money, it's not a viable business, and you gotta get out. And so people that are in a position that want to recycle because it's good for the environment right now, they're gonna have to, have an expenditure for that.
I mean, I feel we
Well-
do as much as we can, we could always do more, but it's just,
Well, can I tag on to that? Because
ma'am,
there's also reducing the production of items that need to be recycled. And our area does a miserable job at that as well, which is interesting because we are so environmentally intertwined with our natural surroundings. But I just wonder if the TDC could help support. I would doubt that the TDC would want to initiate these kinds of efforts, but, there are efforts to reduce or eliminate the use of plastic bags by, grocery stores and vendors, reduce
straws or
Yep,
something.
plastic straws, plastic cutlery, styrofoam containers. It probably would have to come from a nonprofit effort, but it's something the county, I would hope, would certainly jump on board with because while that's not going to solve the problem, it would certainly reduce it. And so I think that's something, hopefully someone will rise up and take that on from a nonprofit perspective, because it could be very effective here. Okay, anything else? All right, we've got Friends of Scenic 30A Cliff Nauer under public comments. Last on the agenda. Yes.
Resolution or whatever y'all voted on, does that include the two projects plus the plaque?
We didn't vote on that, did we?
My motion
We
was
did vote.
intended to that.
We did both, and I thought the one project was to, well, actually, no, the two projects don't include the plaques and donated trees.
I mean, I think, what was your intent? The entire 30A, initiative, or just these projects we were presented?
I think he was asking to include the trees and the plaque.
Oh, yes, correct.
What we voted on was the projects would include the trees and plaque.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm assuming that was the intent.
That was my intent with my motion, yes. Oh, I know where that is.
But the only matter is Stacy Road.
What?
The only matter is Stacy Road.
You got that right? Yeah.
Hey, Cliff.
Good afternoon. I am Cliff Nauer with Dewberry Engineers. I'm one of those mean engineers that Mr. Allen was talking about a little while ago. I am no longer Preble Rish.
Wow.
My company was purchased about 2 years ago,
Okay.
and so I now work for Dewberry Engineers that purchased my former company, Preble Rish Engineers.
Okay.
And so we do the same thing we did before with the same people in the same place, different name, same people.
Good for you.
And so I'm here before you today speaking on behalf of Friends of Scenic 30A. I actually got involved with Friends of Scenic 30A back when Tim Pauls was first commissioner, which has been a few years ago. And so I've either been chairman, secretary, treasurer, or some other board position for about 17 years, I think. It could be a little longer. And so Scenic Friends of 30A is a group that got the scenic highway designation for County Road 30A, and also for portions of County Road 393, 83, 395, and 283. And what the scenic highway designation is, through the Florida Department of Transportation, is a designation that allows us to chase after state and federal dollars to make improvements on those corridors. And so our group is in charge of the scenic designation, and our group is in charge of chasing those dollars that are allocated by the federal government and the state. And so back when Tim Pauls was commissioner many years ago, the program had millions of dollars in it that was being handed out to just a small handful of scenic highways. There was only a few scenic highways that had the designation through the state when we first started going after it. It took us about 6 years to get the designation through the state. And so by the time we got our designation, most of the dollars had been eaten up, and there's been very limited funding for that program since. And so I'm currently treasurer of Friends of Scenic 30A. And last year in October, each of us brought 3 projects to our board to discuss and decide what we wanted to try to pursue. And the project that I have before you today is a project that we have called so far Friends Corner. And it's where Eastern Lake Drive connects to County Road 30A. I gave you guys a before and an after. And really what we've done so far is, and my company donated the surveying, and we're going to donate any civil engineering required, any utility relocations, path design, any of those type of things. But we've asked for DOT to provide some funding to Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn is our consultant that DOT provides to Friends of 30A. So we've asked DOT to fund Kimley Horn to be able to do the design for the educational kiosks and the resting areas. What I put together there is just a conceptual plan on how the path would be routed around the rest area. We're thinking maybe there will be 2 kiosks, there may be 1 kiosk, depending on how the funding goes. But ultimately, what we want to do is apply to the St. Joe Foundation for funding. We also intend to apply later this year to the State Highway Designation Committee for funding as well. And so what we're hoping is that the Scenic Highway Program will fund 50% of the project, and that St. Joe Foundation will fund the other 50% of the project, is what we're hoping. We've applied every year for funding through the program and only received funding, I think, once or twice. And so we're going to try that later this year. If we are not successful, we may be back to the TDC asking for some help with the 50% match. And so we are also a nonprofit like Trees on the Coast. We have limited funding. We keep $2,000 in the bank for operating, but as far as covering the cost of the project, we're not really able to. And so we think that our application will be looked at favorably by the St. Joe Foundation. We also are hopeful that the Scenic Highway Program will fund the other 50%. We think our total project cost is going to be somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000, but we plan to landscape, irrigate, reconfigure the path, and to build 1 or 2 educational kiosks with resting areas and bike racks, kind of like the conceptual plan that I have shown there today. And so my board asked me to present this to you guys so that you would be familiar with who we are and what we do. And so that's the project that we've made a priority. We hope to build it next year. If for some reason our funding through the Scenic Highway designation does not happen, we'll be back to you guys again to ask for funding through the TDC. But in the meantime, we're going to carry on with our plan to use the St. Joe Foundation and the Scenic Highway program to fund the project. You can see in the before picture that it's a miserable looking area. It's really a low-hanging fruit as the way we look at it. I mean, you wouldn't have to do much to improve that area. But as Alan mentioned earlier, we would like to plant a bunch of live oaks. We think it's a great area to plant live oaks and shade that area up. I did meet with Alan, and he's interested in helping with the project. I think that the Friends of 30A will certainly provide Alan a letter of support for his project that he's trying to do as well. We have very common goals. The one thing that I really wanted to point out to you guys is that we have a 1-page action plan that covers a number of items. And our 1-page action plan really follows very closely all the things that you guys are doing. If you look at the items that are in our action plan, we've got it broken into protection, maintenance, and enhancement, transportation, planning, and safety, support, education, and corridor study, economic development and tourism, and then administration. A few of the items that I would just highlight briefly while I have your attention and I have the opportunity is that one of the action items that we've been working on quite a bit is to develop a uniform garbage collection policy or program along County Road 30A. One of the things that drives our group crazy is all the garbage can holders that are out in the county right-of-way from one end of 30A to the other. That's something that we've met with Waste Management several times on, and a goal that we're going to continue to work on, but we think it's something that could be easily fixed to try to get those containers off the county right-of-way and onto private property where they should be. We apply for grants for Scenic 30A and our connectors pretty much every year. Work with the county on maintenance issues related to roads, trails, landscaping, interpretive signs, and advocate for funding for maintenance for public works to be able to maintain those things. In here, you'll see there's several places where it's listed coordinate with TDC. We've not done a good job coordinating with the TDC in the past, but we're gonna try to do better in that respect. But what we also tried to do was we had a 5-page action plan at one time that was way, way bigger than, you know, a small group like us could ever do. And so we're biting off small projects one at a time. We hope to build this one next year. We have 3 other projects that we're gonna start working on soon, which include educational type kiosks at the gateways to 30A. And so when you enter 30A from the west end, we want an educational kiosk of some sort for people that have never been on 30A before, that are coming onto 30A for the first time. And we also want to do one on the west end of 30A. Let's see. The east end of 30A at Inlet Beach is where we want to put one. And the west end at Dune Allen, I guess you call it, is the other place we want to put one. Because right now when people come onto the 30A path from either end, there's no signage or direction or anything on what it is that's ahead of you on the trail for that next 26 miles. And so we think it would be fantastic to have kind of a rest area with educational information and some good wayfinding signage on each end of County Road 30A that doesn't exist today. So that's another project that we're getting ready to work on. So we support Alan and everything that he's doing. I'm sure that our group will provide him a letter of support. This is the project that we're working on now. I'm not asking for anything from you today. I may be back before you next year asking for something before your budget time starts if all else fails. But I appreciate the opportunity, and I have now done what my board directed me to do.
Good job,
Well,
Cliff.
thank you.
So I'll be happy to answer any kind of questions that you guys might have.
Any questions or comments?
I just love your map because it lists all the coastal dune lake names.
Yes, ma'am.
That's excellent, thank you.
Yep. We have recently reorganized. Our group kind of got lost for a year or so. We've recently reorganized, and we've got some new board members, and so we're picking up steam, and we're going to try to make a big difference.
Excellent, thank you.
Cliff, a question and a comment. This area, point to it. I don't know what that little road connector is called. This area here?
Yep.
Has there been have you all talked, is it Resort Quest that's right
I
there?
have not met with
or
Resort Quest.
Anything, because, you know, I just always hate to look on one side of the road and see beautiful and on the other and see yuck.
Yeah.
So it seems like that might be a good area to either get them to
Yeah.
take on or,
Right. Well, that was one of the things that we thought about was, right now we have irrigation included with our project. We're gonna use, you know, xeric type landscaping. But to get that stuff to grow, a lot of times it takes irrigation, and so that may be one of the things that we ask them about is maybe temporary irrigation to get our stuff off and growing. But certainly we'll coordinate with them. We haven't yet, but we're going to.
okay, great. And then my other comment, just a suggestion. I'm on the board of the Scenic Corridor Foundation. I'm the president, so I know we have some common board members, but the kiosks at the 30A entrances, it's a thing of mine that I love to try to include Scenic Gulf Drive in anything that we can. And so we ought to talk. Right now, Scenic Corridor Foundation is limited to US 98 and 331 south of the bay. We're currently considering expanding that geography. But there is a Scenic Gulf Drive initiative group that's, you probably know, is pretty
I know them all.
inactive. Yeah. But I'd love to just, you know, if you're doing something and somebody else wants to tag on, you can get some economies of scale, so it probably would be worth at least asking a question if any one of those two groups would be interested in looking at that for Scenic Gulf Drive too.
Okay.
I know it's a totally different animal, but still,
Yeah.
we ought to be doing everything we can to continue to improve that roadway in that area.
Yep. I agree.
That's all I have. Anything else? Any public comments? Okay.
Thank you guys
Thank
for
you
the
very
opportunity.
much.
Appreciate
Great
it.
project. I think that's it. Anybody have any last minute input? Ryan, we good? All right. Do we need to have a motion to adjourn?
Move to approve.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.